Hi, Greg. Thank you so much for coming on the Art of Living Well podcast today. We're both really excited for this conversation. And it's funny, we all met very recently when we were both doing 29029 in Montreal. And we sat with you and your wife and a whole bunch of your close friends that you got to do this amazing event with you. And I think we sat at dinner with you one night. And then we started the event the next day. And we hiked a little bit with yourself and your wife. And I just remember it was the highway to hell, we called it. So it was the last 0.7 miles. And we met up with you after the aid station. And that's the part where it's really helpful to have someone with you to talk to. And you chatted with Marnie and I and told us all these stories. And it went by so much faster. And so it was just a great way to finish off that ascent. I think it was probably like number 11 or 12 or something. So we were getting towards the end and we were tired. But we just think the work that you do is so important. And it's not a topic that we have really talked about on the show before, and how you're supporting middle-aged men. So thank you so much for coming on our show. And we're just excited to jump in today.
And nice hat, by the way.
Yes.
Thank you.
I like your hat.
I wore the hat for you guys. Bald guys love hats also.
Yeah.
We're trying to all clean up a little bit after the mountain as well. And I appreciate you both. It was great meeting on the mountain. Talking your ear off. Sorry, but it does make the time go faster. Some of us are talkers, some of us are listeners. It's like whatever it takes. And you find that you meet these people at various stages, and you even kind of like mid-conversation go by them, and it's like everyone just kind of accepts whatever happens right there.
Yes. Yes. The beauty of the journey. So before we dive into talking more about middle-aged men and all the work you're doing, can you share, what would you treat yourself today if you could do one thing special, time and money being off the table, like no constraints?
What would I do? What would I choose?
What would you do today?
How would you spend your day?
How would you spend your day?
I love that question because I actually talk about it a lot. And I was thinking about it before we jumped on here, just at the notion that the podcast is called The Art of Living Well. And I think that there's this kind of misconception when people ask, like, what would you do like for the perfect day, or and you start thinking about these rainbow and unicorn days, these vacations, these experiences. I would put myself, on a beach over here, and I would fly private to this, or I'd stay in this hotel. And it's like, like what I really kind of work on a lot is, what does a good day look like? Period. Like in your normal life, what does a good day look like? And then how do you string as many of those together as possible? Because to me, that's the art of living well. We don't get a lot of these rainbow and unicorn, opportunities. Like that's not reality. That's not going to be the majority. So like what I look for is, how can you make the majority of your days really good days? So, what does it look like? It looks very much like today, actually. It looks like, waking up next to my wife, getting our son off to school, walking the dogs, for a couple of miles, getting into my garage, putting the door up. The weather happens to be beautiful today. We don't get a lot of that in Houston. It's starting to finally become normal right now. Getting a good workout in, having a good breakfast, having a conversation with you guys. I'm working on some new projects for 2025. So I've time blocked out a few hours this afternoon, and I'll work in my backyard. So I'm really lucky that I'm able to do that. We have family dinner on Friday night. And like I said, I'm in bed by 9, by 9, I'm asleep by 10 because I got back from New York, at about 1:00 in the morning last night. The days when I can collaborate, when I can communicate, when I can exercise, when I can be around my family, when I can eat well, I'm kind of a creature of habit in that routine. Like those are really good days.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't agree more.
100%. Yeah, you're speaking our language.
Yeah, if I could sneak a massage or like a stretch appointment, like those things are good. If I get into my sauna and my cold plunge, before I go to bed, like those are the add-ons, that I'm fortunate to have available to me now that enhance those days. But they're really about sustainability, longevity, happiness, and I had a friend of mine that says, like, what I call low friction living, like. Dial it back. Like we complicate the shit out of stuff. Like keep it really, really simple.
Yeah. So true. So I'm curious, how did you get to this point? Like, can you share some of these pivotal moments in your life where you realize that maybe, you weren't living the life that you wanted to live. And so you changed your path, you created this, midlife male. Your whole purpose is to kind of help other men get to a point in their lives where they're living the life that they want to live.
Yeah, I'll work backwards on that. Yes, now I'm really, really fortunate to be able to be of service and help other men maximize middle age. And that's really become the movement and the mission of what's happening at Midlife Male. However, I'd be lying if I told you that was the mission from the beginning. The mission from the beginning was to help myself. The mission was a really selfish one and a self-serving one at the beginning, because you mentioned the word path. Like, I think a lot of us as men, and this is what happened to me, like I followed the path that I thought I was supposed to follow, which is you graduate high school and you go to college and you declare your major and you graduate and you get a job and you start hustling and grinding. And then you're supposed to get married and then you have kids and then you buy the house and then those kids end up in private school and you've got cars and you're social, like, and you're getting promoted. Like, that's the path. You go, and it keeps happening, there. And you don't even know how it's happening. It's just what you were supposed to do, or what I thought you were supposed to do. And that's what I did. And I really didn't have anybody to ask whether I was doing it right or wrong or what else I should do. My father passed away when he was 47. I've talked about that a lot. So I was 17 and heading off to college at the time. So I thought I had to do it alone. I thought I had to do it on my own, now. So I didn't spend a whole lot of time asking for help. I didn't know that that was available or that was an option. I really didn't appreciate or understand or learn the concept of mentorship or advisors or anything. I was just following what I thought success was supposed to look like and what we were supposed to do as men. And I found myself at 47, which was the same age as when my dad passed away, in my car on my 10-year anniversary with my firm. And I had had a couple of businesses along the way, a couple of hits, a couple of misses, so all the success from the outside looking in. But I found myself that day in the car in the parking lot of the office building, 47, 10-year anniversary, and I just didn't want to get out of the car. I'm like, is this the best I'm going to, the city slickers moment? This is the best I'm going to look, the best I'm going to feel, the best I'm ever going to do. And it ain't that great. And I had the office on the 24th floor overlooking downtown Houston. I had equity in the firm. I had a multi-million-dollar book of business. I had the beautiful wife. We had the great kids and all of it. And I was like, this is what mediocrity really feels like. This intersection, of like emptiness and untapped potential.
I think you said it right there, untapped potential.
And it's the years of conformity and complacency and redundancy that you go through, and then you wake up and you go, wait a minute. How many years have passed? What am I going to do? And that was the time when I was like, look, I can squander these opportunities, or I can pour some rocket fuel on this, and maybe I can supercharge the next phase of my life. Because as of today, I've lived a day longer than my father had. So what am I going to do now? I consider this bonus time. And I knew I wanted to make those changes, but I had no idea how to do that. And I think that's where a lot of guys get hung up. They know the why. There's all this talk about finding your why, and find your why and know your why. And before you can do anything, it's like, no, I knew why I wanted to be a better husband. I knew why I wanted to be a better father. I knew why I wanted to make more money. I knew why I wanted to get out of this career that I was in. I knew why I wanted to stop drinking. I knew why, like, the why was not my problem. The how was the problem.
Mm-hmm.
What are the actual steps I needed to take to make change that could be sustainable and could be positive and could be transformative in the next phase of my life? And like most egotistical guys and narcissists. Like we don't want to ask for help. We don't want to appear vulnerable. Therapy was not like a thing in my family. I never done like any of this stuff. I don't like going to masterminds. I don't want to sit in a circle and pass a talking stick around and cry and I don't do that. Okay. Like I've never done that. Now, by the way, I've done all of it. I've tried it all. I can tell you I've tried everything. But what I chose to do is I'm like, okay, I don't know the answers to the questions that I have. So let me start finding the right guys and ask the right guys the right questions. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to bring a microphone. So I created a podcast where I would interview these guys, these high performing middle-aged men, family, fitness, finance, food, fashion, fun, the things that I was into. Like, let me go find these guys and let me bring a microphone. And now I'm obligated to ask the questions that I would never ask publicly before because out of fear or embarrassment or vulnerability. But now as a host, I have an obligation to have these conversations. And I look almost authoritative in the process.
Yeah. Right.
I look like I'm a good guy. I look like I'm vulnerable. I look like I'm smart enough to do this. And it was incredibly all I wanted the info. I just wanted the access and I wanted the insights and I wanted the information, the how. And I was fortunate that I had a tremendous amount of guys that gave me the opportunity and then they talked to me and I had built up some really goodwill over 10, 15, 20 years in a solid network, personally and professionally. And those conversations on the podcast were tremendous. And then I started writing about my experiences and what I was applying every weekend, which became the newsletter. And from 47 to 50, which was a 3-year process of interviewing over 200 men and writing about it every weekend and applying what I learned, that became the book. And then the book took off, which was kind of cool. And I'm like, I don't write a book. Like, how do you write a book? And I had a publisher friend, Naren, who was on the mountain with us, who said, you've already got the book. You have the interviews and you have the application in your newsletter. Like, boom, we'll put it together. You've already got a book. Yeah. And that's how that happened, was somebody helping me again. And when that took off, that led to speaking. And speaking led to guys reaching out and asking if I would work with them and coach them or on that. And that's gotten me to where we are today, which is Midlife Male, as a lifestyle brand that is really all about helping men maximize middle age. And we put out a newsletter every week and we're still doing the podcast and I'm working with guys all over the country and we're building out community and we're taking them to events and experiences like 29029. And it's a long way to go around, but it's like, that's what a good day looks like to me. Like, this is what I get to do now. And it's so different from what I was doing before. And if you would have told me that it would be possible for me to be doing this at 52, to be more energized, more fulfilled, more productive, not to be chasing salary and title as the metric of success, but this more holistic metric of total life wellness and lower friction living, which, by the way, is incredibly scalable and lucrative. When you stop chasing all of those and a totally different kind of definition of success and wealth, I would have told you to bet the under. Would have told you it's not possible. At least not for me. But it is. And I'll leave you to anyone with this. So whether the guys are listening out there or whether the wives are listening out there and they're married to these guys, it is, if I can do it, like anybody can. I am galactically unremarkable by every category overall. Like, nothing special. What I do well is I'm like a golden retriever. If you throw the ball, I'll bring it back. And when enough smart people started basically telling me how they did things, all I was smart enough to do was go, okay, I could do that. I like what he told me. I could cook that. Like, I can't be James Beard award-winning chef Seamus Mullen, but I can grill. That's what I can do. Like, I can learn that. I can take that. So you start taking these little pieces from all of it, of what's going to work for you. I call it aggregate, curate, eliminate, the ACE concept. You aggregate from all the information and noise and everything out there. You curate it down to what's going to work for you. And then you eliminate the stuff that doesn't. And
Mhm.
that becomes your operating system. That becomes your midlife action plan, your map. And then it makes it easy for me to answer questions like, what does a good day look like? Because the mediocrity happens by default, the maximization happens by design. These
Right.
days are by design.
Yeah.
Yes.
Couldn't agree more.
Yep.
So what is one of the main things men come to you asking for help with?
Men are funny like this. I don't know if all of it. I mean, it's what's interesting is by the time the guys come to me or they reach out or they show up at on a call or an event, an experience, by that time, they are like so ready, like they just throw up all over you.
Yeah.
Because they've done some
Because they've
other
been holding so much of it in and so much of it back for so long that it's this jumbled almost mess of like everything that comes out.
How my husband, I feel like that's how he would be if he came to you. He would just
Want to get healthier and I want to get wealthy and I want to stop drinking and I'm
Yeah.
playing golf with the wrong guys and I'm playing poker with these guys. And what about the hair transplant? And do you do Botox? And what about the TRT? And like, and all of it, like it all starts coming out.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And then we gotta sort it out.
Right.
And then we gotta break it down to go, okay, like we're going to knowing what's important is what's most important. We got to figure that out first.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there. We got to figure out what does success look like. Then we can reverse engineer back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got to do the aggregate, curate, and eliminate. Then show me your calendar. I'll show you your priorities because most of these guys, they have no idea where their time is going. At all.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly reactive. It's everything else. And listen, you tell me your family is the most important thing to you, then show me. Pick up your phone and show me where it is on here. You tell me fitness is important to you. I don't see a workout schedule on the calendar. I see board meetings on the calendar, or I see other. Like we've got to get measurable and quantifiable, and then we got to do the last one, which is grace, gratitude, and latitude. Stop beating ourselves up over all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really hard on ourselves about it, and this is going to be a process, and progress is a process. It is not 7-minute abs. It is not 90 days. You know, it is not, it is, these things have to become a lifestyle, and that takes time and that takes work. And that's preparation, discipline, and accountability.
Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of differences between men and women. And I just think there was something that I read when I was on your blog just about obviously community and the power of having strong relationships, which is what you're building through your community. But there was a study that was done, I think it was like American Psychological Association, that like 1/3 of men ages 45 to 60, mid 60s reported feeling isolated, lonely, depressed. And it's just not something men talk about, right? And I just think like women, not that we don't have those same issues, but we tend to talk about it more or like have a girlfriend or two or a small group. But like for men, why is it that, at least at my observation of my husband and others, they don't get deep with each other? Like they go out and they'll play 4 hours of golf, they'll go bike, they'll go to dinner, they'll go have drinks. But my husband will come home and I'll ask him a very specific question about someone that like he just saw that they just did something, or him and his wife had a baby, and I'll ask a question. He's like, oh, I don't know. We didn't talk about that. Like, what the hell did you just talk about for 4 hours then? But there's this like, I don't know, there's this like a barrier or some armor that gets put up.
I don't know if it's barrier and armor per se, as much as it is we just don't care that much. It's like, I'm just gonna put it out there. Like, we just don't care that much about a lot of this stuff. I mean, and I say that not in a way that we can't get deep and we can't get vulnerable and we don't want really good relationships. But I think what you're alluding to is also there's a lot of white space between like not caring that much and not knowing what this guy really does for a living, but he's a good guy, or we didn't ask him about this, or we just wanted to have a good time. And now to your other point of, I think we've gone so far in this other direction now that it's like, you know, we're trying to redefine masculinity and guys have to be open and vulnerable and go deep and be all these things. And it's like the middle is messy, but the middle is the sweet spot. Can we just focus on mastering the middle?
Yes.
And some guys that we want to go narrow and deep with, And there are other guys that can stay shallow and wide, and it can just be that for the rest of our lives. I mean, I have guys that come over and work out in my garage every Sunday. They're amazing. They're amazing guys. They're terrific. And they come over on Sundays and we exercise and we work out and we barely say anything else to each other. And I have one, and John was on the mountain with us. I've been working out with him and his wife, Sarah, for probably 2 years. On the mountain, I finally asked John what he does for a living. I don't know. I didn't know. I couldn't explain what he does for a living, like some consulting or whatever. But have we ever really had that conversation? No. But what does he do? He fills the bucket that, quite frankly, I need him to fill. Which is you come over on Sunday, you keep me company, and you work out with me.
Yeah.
And you're really nice, and you're really smart, and you're really in good shape, and you're reliable. Okay. And you're morally and ethically aligned and physically aligned with everything. And that's good enough on a Sunday morning.
Totally.
So it's all, I think the expectations kind of create almost more of the barrier. It's like, let us be who we are. But what I will tell you is, Art of Living Well, if we can be happier, healthier, wealthier, stronger, have more sex, all those other, we're pretty simple. Like we're really simple in that regard.
You're pretty simple, yet so many men find this so challenging. And like you mentioned in the beginning, and I mean, I even felt this way growing up. Like I was on a path that I thought I was supposed to be on, right? I graduate high school, go to college, get the job, get married, have the babies, the house, the whole thing. Like as a woman, I could relate to so much of what you were saying. Now, maybe as a woman, I'm deeper and I, took more time earlier to start to unravel some of those things. But I do think a lot of men just get stuck on this like hamster wheel, people in general.
I mean, and how many dinners have we been out with like multiple couples and the guys are on one end and the wives are on the other end, and everyone's been married for like 15 years at this point, and everyone kind of looks the same and you wonder like, how did anybody is this almost like interchangeable and everyone's doing the same thing and it looks a lot, it's like, okay, like how did this all happen?
And it's boring, right? Like it's not even that exciting to do that, to me at least.
It's the conformity, complacency, redundancy. This is what we're supposed to do. Here's what happens. We go through the week, and we get to Friday, and who are we going out with? And then we have this kind of event on Saturday, or this thing with the kids, this thing with the people. And are you going to so-and-so's thing? And everybody goes to so-and-so's thing, but nobody wants to go to so-and-so's thing. But nobody wants to be the one that doesn't go to so-and-so's thing or says that they don't want to. It's unbelievable. I can't say it's unbelievable. It's very believable because it's there all the time. But back to the notion that it is simple when you say, but you're doing these things and so many guys can't, or other people can't do it. Simple is hard. And doing simple well is really, really hard. And being willing and having the conviction to say what you mean and mean what you say and do the things you want to do and not do the things that you don't want to do. Like those things are simple, but they're hard. And you've got to get comfortable with sometimes being the outlier, or maybe being that popular, or making a decision and a choice that cuts against the grain or the norm. When I stopped getting invited to play golf, poker, and fishing was when I wrote every weekend that I can't stand going, playing golf, going fishing, and and playing poker.
Well, and even as a man, you mentioned you gave up drinking. Even that alone, I would think, like, I feel like a lot of guys relate to having a beer together or tasting whiskey or bourbon or whatever it is.
And I'm not against drinking. Like, I don't even say that I'm a sober person and I'm not the teetotaler in there too. It has worked its way out of my life. That's what's right. I was really good at drinking for a while. That was the problem. Like when my best friend's daughter gave me a birthday card and she drew a bottle of Patron tequila on the birthday card that she gave me, that's when I knew I had a drinking problem. Like when you hear my name and see me, you associate me with drinking and tequila. Like, and I'm not doing it not myself, but I'm also doing that to your dad. Like that's a problem.
Yeah.
So as I got healthier, you say like one of the best ways to become successful, I think, and to simplify certain things is it's not what I'm doing, it's what I'm not doing. The misconception there is that it's about addition. I've got to do all these things, do all these. It's not, no, it's not what you're doing. It's what you need to stop doing.
Yes.
When I stopped drinking, reduced drinking and stopped drinking, then I was able to get better sleep. And I was able to have more energy to actually exercise. When I stopped giving my time away to people, places, and things that didn't deserve it, I was never really a big golfer, but if you go play golf, that's 4 hours, okay? What else can you do with that 4 hours? If you don't really like golfing, you don't really like the people you're golfing with, take your 4 hours back and just think about what you could do with those 4 hours. It could be more productive. And you can say that about anything that you want to. I was working with clients that I didn't enjoy working with. And those clients required entertainment and networking and doing, and I didn't want to do the things that were required. Like, because you can't burn the candle at both ends too. How can I be taking these clients to concerts and events and to Vegas and drinking and the debauchery and all the other stuff and wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and get my workout in and prepare to do? Something's got to give. So you got to also be prepared depending upon what your situation and circumstances are. Like I spent during that process years basically getting rid of, like, firing clients or allowing myself to be fired by clients so that I could apply my time to going to refill that bucket with other clients that were greater aligned with the lifestyle that I wanted to live. So if you got clients that want to go out all night, party, do this, go to baseball games, football games, rock concerts, whatever you want to take them to, and like, here, you should go work with so-and-so at our firm. That's your guy. He loves it. He'll golf with you every Sunday.
Yep.
He loves you. Like, he loves doing that. He should be your agent.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going over here and working with these guys because when I call them and say we're going to meet for a workout in the morning, go for breakfast, and then we're going to talk about your multi-million-dollar account, that's what those guys are looking for.
Right.
It all exists. You just have to figure out where you want to be and what you want to do. And then you got to really be prepared to embrace the suck that comes in when you're in transition. It's the dip. It's like what Seth Godin talks about, that dip. You're going to hit that dip.
Yeah.
And it's going to suck. And you're going to have two choices here. You're going to either power through the dip and come out better the other side, or you're going to go back. It's too hard.
So Greg, we know you have like a lot of like foundational principles, and you have these 6 F's and things that you talk about in your book, The Midlife Male No Bullshit Guide. Can you touch on a little bit of these like virtues of being a bit midlife male and doing some of these things that you said are simple, yes, but not easy, but just get a little practical and maybe give our listeners some tangible nuggets here?
Yeah. One, I think it really also it depends on where you are. You know, I say a lot of times, today is the day that you start. Wherever you are, today is the day you start. We're all going to start from a different place. There's never going to be a perfect day to start. There are always reasons and excuses to not start making changes. So wherever you are, like today is that day. And what you're alluding to here, which is absolutely true, is that they do not have to be monumental changes. You do not have to quit your job and follow your passion tomorrow, okay? It could be the most galactically irresponsible thing you could possibly do in middle age. Or you don't have to listen to a million podcasts, join all these masterminds, read all these books, you know, and just continue to consume all this information that becomes so confusing that you don't know what to do at all. You have to make incrementally better choices. And when you start making better choices the majority of the time, the majority of your life starts to get better. And what I mean by that is, if you're rolling out of bed in the morning and ignoring your wife completely, roll out of bed, go in, take your piss, brush your teeth, get your coffee, get dressed, go to work, and instead of giving her a kiss good morning before you get out of bed and go do anything, which one of those is going to get you laid? Which will give you a better, will give you a better opportunity to be close in your relationship, okay? Yeah. Consistent over there, like pay attention, like we attract and repel exactly what we deserve. If you want, like, be nice, be kind, do the things that you used to do, and you may actually, which one's the better choice? It becomes pretty obvious.
Yeah.
You know, can I swap a soda for water today? You know, if I'm drinking 16 Diet Cokes at my desk all day long, can I swap one of them out or 2 of them out? And then the next day, another one. Better one or better two? Drink 16 Diet Cokes or add some water to the mix or reduce this down. Simple. We know the answers to the test. We really do. Should I sleep in or go to the gym? Do I go for a walk today? Or do I take the elevator? Can I swap the stairs, for the elevator? Whatever, these little things that we can do, those things stack up. The little things are the big things. Can I look at my calendar and say, that shouldn't be there? And I keep allowing it to be there. So today's the day I'm going to remove it. Or I'm going to honor my commitment for today, but this is the time. But going forward, I'm not going to do that anymore. Can I leave the office a little bit earlier and make it to my kid's game? Did I say I was going to coach Little League? And you know what? I haven't coached Little League. I keep making excuses for the reason I'm. Do I have to be the first one in and the last one out? Maybe I did when I was in my 20s and my 30s, but by the way, now I'm a partner. And now my life's at a different place. And my priorities have changed a little bit. But they've only changed up here and they haven't changed in application to my actual life. So again, what am I going to do? What shifts can I make? Can I take a half an hour here? Can I take a half an hour there? Can I really identify going through, again, those rules? But it starts with the rules. Knowing what's important is what's most important. You don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. Aggregate, curate, and eliminate. Show me your calendar, I'll show you your priorities. Grace, gratitude, and latitude. Now, my F's don't have to be your F's. But you do have to understand what your metric of success is. It can be anything you want them to be. But then you have to take what your metric of success is, and you've got to apply them to the rules. And then you got to ask yourself that question, better one or better two, all day long.
Right.
And when you make the better choice, majority of the time, majority of things get better. You keep making the wrong choices, we know what's going to happen because that movie we've seen.
So as women who are married to men that potentially, aren't living their best midlife at the moment, how would you suggest that a woman supports a significant other to even think about trying to engage in something like this or even start the journey?
I think men respond better, quite frankly, at least in my experience. We understand business, KPIs, quarterly reports, okay? Profit and loss, black and white. I love those formats work with men. They really do. I say, look, show me your business plan. You got it for your firm. You've got it for your job. Show me your responsibilities, your job description. They can do it. Show me the KPIs. Show me your quarterly performance reports. Show me all these things. They can do it. When I ask them, where's the one for your life? They got nothing. Where are your standards? What's your fitness standard? How is that not a KPI? What is your fitness and health standard? My fitness and health standard is I'll be 175 pounds, 10 to 12% body fat, be able to do anything that I want to do, look good naked, and not be injured. Okay, that's my fitness standard. So what do I have to do in order to maintain that standard? I have to train 5 days a week, 2 days off, mixed modalities. I've got to run, I've got to hike, I've got to walk, I've got to lift, I've got to recover. Where's that on my calendar? Do that. Okay, you either met the standard or you didn't meet the standard. What's your grade? You want to turn your F's into A's? Show me how you're going to do that. Okay, what's your food standard? What do you put on your body? That matters. Have you seen a nutritionist? Do you know what your body responds well to, what it doesn't? 80% of the time I eat clean. 20% of the time I eat whatever I want or whatever my kids leave over on their plate. On there. What does that look like? I think in order to answer your question, in order to support guys, like we've got to speak, they talk love languages or here's how we're going to do things and everything. Like, just be straight. You don't look good. Okay. This is not what I signed up for.
Oh,
Okay.
That go
I
over
know,
well if you say that?
like, guess
Yeah.
what? You're not holding up the line over here. Okay. How can I help? But let's talk about this. I can't work out for you. This is what you said you were going to do. This is what you were not doing.
Mhm.
I mean, what do we see a lot of? I see a lot of middle-aged women looking really, really good. They're out in workout clothes all the time. They're lunching, they're eating, they're looking good. They're being proactive on everything they can do. They're all working their way through menopause, and that's a big topic, and everyone's supporting everybody and helping everybody and all that. And what do I see with a lot of men? I see a lot of laziness. I see a lot of excuses. I see a lot of, I make a lot of money and I'm sacrificing for my family and I've been going to work every day and I've been doing all this and da 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 da. You know, you think that's enough? Like you think that's what, again, you think that's exactly what we all want here? And there becomes a lot of resentment, I think, around that. And I think we got to walk back the resentment and we got to walk back the competition, the competitive aspect. Oh, you're doing all this and you're doing it all for me, or you're doing it all for us. And then we expect that. And you think you're doing the right thing, but it's like we need more of this and maybe less of that. And I think we've misaligned, again, what the priorities are and what we want the standards of our families to be.
Mhm.
What's the family standard? How many nights do we have dinner together? How many times do we have breakfast together? How many times are we making love this week or this month? Okay. What is our vacation schedule? We have 4 kids. I'm sorry, we have 4 in our family, 2 kids, 21 and 18. Okay. What's our schedule and our standards now? Well, 2 months out of the year, we're together, the 4 of us. Those can't be consecutive anymore because we're all spread out all over the place. But the standard is 2 months out of a 12-month year, the 4 of us are together. So how do we make that happen? Next week, we'll be in Boulder with our older son. It's not a question of whether we're bringing our younger son. It's on the standard. It's written down in there. You know, we've got to standardize this stuff. And I think, again, if we can run your life like you run your business, I say it to guys all the time, run your life like you run your business. You would never accept underperforming quarter after quarter in your business. Why do you continue to accept it in your life? Every year your waist gets bigger and every year you buy bigger pants. Do you think that's the right answer?
Right.
And you look like shit,
And
right?
well, from a financial standpoint, you're throwing money away, you know?
And I don't need you to be jacked. I don't need you to be an Iron Man. I don't need to be. We're talking now about pride. Okay. We're talking about character. We're talking about pride. We're talking about quality of life. You think it's getting up and going to work at 6 a.m. and not coming home until 8 o'clock. I don't think that's what success looks like anymore.
Right.
Maybe it did at certain times, or maybe we have to, or again, honor your responsibilities professionally, but we also have responsibilities personally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially. They're all in the bucket. So what does our operating system look like? And what are our standards for all of these areas? If you're getting an A in finance and you're crushing it, but you're failing family and fitness and fun, what's your cumulative GPA?
Right.
Okay, you're like a C student. And what's a C student? Mediocre, average. Who signed up for mediocre and average?
You know, I just think about what you're saying because I can be bossy sometimes, shocking as an older child with my husband on certain things, right? And just nagging about. But like what you're suggesting is like sitting down and having a financial planning meeting with your spouse to talk about all these areas, prioritization and, you know, the reports that you kind of talked about, right? Like putting together a P&L, but for the other areas of your life. And that just to me seems like a very productive conversation to have, and one that probably enough marriages or just couples in general aren't having. And I think sometimes the men maybe think that we want the house and the car and the kid, whatever. And so the pressure is on potentially it doesn't need to be the men, but let's just say it's the man right now to deliver and do all that. And sometimes like what we want, I would take less money and live in a different setting, in a different city, if I could have all those other areas of my life being
Well,
fulfilled.
you're back to now defining what success looks like, what fulfillment looks like, what happiness looks like, what are our expectations, and are they aligned? And a lot of times the men think this is, again, what I'm supposed to be doing. This is, hey, again, golden retriever in a different way. Hey,
Yeah.
I keep working. They throw the ball, I bring the ball back. This is what I do. I go to work, I come home, I bring the bacon home. We have the house, we have the car, we have all of this stuff. They keep going, and nobody's told them they can stop going.
Right.
Next time that guy throws the ball, don't chase it.
Yeah.
Here's what's happened to a lot of these guys that I see too. They've won. They've won, and they don't even know it. They've won, and they continue to feel like losers every day, to continue to feel like they have to hustle, grind, be tired, not take time for themselves, not be around. They've won, and they don't even know it. Because when you step back and you break it down and you go, you know what? Wait a minute. Like, okay, we're close to becoming empty nesters, or maybe we're empty nesters at this point. We've got the house, we've had it for a while. We don't necessarily need more. We need a little bit more quality of life and maybe a little less. And by the way, we have X set aside and X set aside and X percent interest every year and compounding over that. Guess what? Get off the train. Or slow the train down. What you had to do to get here is not going to get you here. It's different now, and that's okay. 20 to 30, 30 to 40. Here we are, 50 to 60. Okay, if you got the window from 50 to 70, I can do those. Those are really critical years. So I'm 52 and Kate's 55. Like, I think 50 to 70 is like a really critical time. Because in that window, I think you can be young enough and healthy enough and vibrant enough to be doing a lot of things, and you have all the experience from what you've lived and learned and screwed up, and done well to apply to those years. And in our case, our kids will be out of the house and living their life and doing it. I'm probably, let's say, probably not going to be as interested, in climbing the biggest mountain when I'm 71.
You might be.
I might be. Probably. I might be. And we could be living longer and all these other things. But I think that 50 to 70 window is like a really, really critical window. So, okay, what do I want my relationship to look like with my wife? What do I want it to look like with my kids? What do I want it to even look like with my friends? What do I want my hobbies to be? What am I interested in? How much money do I need to do this? In those areas, like, what does it really look like? I just need enough to do what I want, when I want, with who I want, for as long as I want. What does that look like? I mean, we're all different in terms of what that is, but I don't know who the Joneses are, but they're very hard to keep up with. They seem to be everywhere.
Yep.
And I know that I used to Google giant homes and fancy cars in my 20s and 30s, and now I Google tiny homes. And classic cars. And you're like, what's the smallest and highest quality footprint I can possibly have? And what is sustainable and what is iconic, and what is freedom it'll really look like?
Yeah. So just going back to our listeners, and if you could provide one or two tips or strategies or something to someone that's just hearing this kind of what you're saying for the first time, what would you say to, let's say it's a man or a woman who's married to a man that needs help?
I think it's both. One, I think you should both sit down and you should write out your plan. And you don't even have to call it a plan, but sit down and put pen to paper. What do you want? Like, in vivid, explicit, if you will, detail. This is what I want my house to kind of look like. This is what I want my days to look like. This is what I want to put on my body and in my body. This, in all these areas, this is what I want. And I want to, and map it out 3 years down the road. I use 3 years because 5 seems too long and 1 seems too short. So I use 3. This is what my vision okay, what my midlife action plan looks like for 3 years, and write in every one of these areas, and write it down categorically. This is how much time I want to spend with my kids. The stats say that when your kids turn 18, you've spent over 90% of your time with them. Okay, so
I've heard that lately. It makes me so sad.
My youngest is 18.
yeah. So ours too. So I go, okay, well, on paper, in our family standard, okay, I say, well, we are going to be in the others, we're going to be in the 10%. So in order for us to be in the 10%, which is the only acceptable standard that I am willing to take for our family and for our boys, in that 10%, what does that need to look like? So how much time do we actually need to spend together? What do we need to do? Where do we need to be? How is that going to happen at 21 and 18, which will then be 24 and 21? Yeah, I'm bad with math. But what does it look like? And that's on the page. My younger son is 18, for example. This gets back to guys measurable and quantifiable. He plays basketball in school. The standard is I will attend 80% of your games. So if you look at the schedule, you can tell you exactly how many games there are. The absolute minimum acceptable standard is that I will attend 80% of your games. The reality is I'll attend more, but the minimum acceptable standard is 80%.
And you're also not promising 100% because it's important for him to see that you have stuff outside of him, right?
And it also sets us up for failure. And perfect is the enemy of good. And guys want to be perfect. And instead, we try to be perfect and we don't end up even good.
Mhm.
Because life happens. You know what? In order for us to live the way we are and travel the way we do, and for you to go to an out-of-state college and everything else, there's a chance I'm going to miss a couple of your games. I don't want to, but it won't be below 80%. But two things should happen. One, you should know what I'm doing. And two, you should be able to look up in the stands and see me not there and still be able to ball out.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've got to teach a bunch of lessons in all of these situations that are there. And how we make choices and how the actions that we take and the choices we make determine how successful we are going to ultimately be. So the place to start is writing it down and throw up all over the page. And do not worry about making it perfect. You know, fashion is one of my F's, and people ask me about that all the time. And it's really not about being on the cover of GQ. It's really just more about figuring out what you want to wear that makes you feel good. What is your personal brand? What makes you feel confident? What makes you feel like yourself? That's a standard, though. Okay? So I wear Levi's 511 jeans, size 33 waist, 32 length. Okay? These are the boots and the shoes that I wear. These are it's on the page. And if you go in the closet, everything looks exactly like what's on the page. A lot of black t-shirts.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of great, like, here it is. These are the colors I wear. These are the brands that I wear. These are the sizes that they are. This is what this looks like. No surprises.
That's awesome.
Everything has a standard. And it took a while to get to this. Now, I had to wear suits for a long time. I hated them. Some guys feel amazingly powerful and everything in a suit. I didn't. I felt like a fraud, a total imposter.
So do you feel in your black t-shirt like you're just being authentically you?
Yeah. And it's easy also. You know, I have like 17 black Buck Mason t-shirts at this point. Okay. And easy to put, and it's easy to put them on. Here's another thing. T-shirt and jeans can look really good. You can go anywhere in them if you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, $5,000 suit and look like a piece of shit. If it's not tailored well, you're not in shape, you're not in anything. You can go anywhere in this world right now in a really good pair of jeans and a really good t-shirt with a really nice watch and a good pair of shoes. You can go anywhere as a guy. If you're in shape.
Right. Right.
So these things all go together. And if you actually go to midlifemale.com and you do subscribe to our newsletter, so you can literally get a copy of my midlife action plan, the exact first plan that I wrote and how I did it. And you can see the yellow legal pad, okay, with the circle and the 6 F's on it and how that became all these things. And now what does each and every one of the standards look like? What is the financial standard in there? Make X amount of dollars per year. How much do I have invested? Is the house owned? Are the cars leased? Okay, what are all these things? You also may find out again, you've won. Wait a minute. I don't have to make this every year for the rest of my life because I've already been. All this stuff is done. It's shifted. But you have to have it down. You got to know. because
Yeah.
then you've got data, then you've got information. And that information that's just as valuable as what you want 3 years down the road. What do I want my life to look like? And then how am I going to reverse engineer back to making that happen?
Yeah. I mean, no different than than a lot of people do at work with some sort of a plan. So, but your life, like prioritizing you, yourself, your happiness, your family, so important.
That's all it is. It is an outline and it is a plan for your life. And it is categorically organized, no different than a business that is operating in different areas. We have the divorce attorney, we have the tax attorney, they all work at the same firm. Everybody has a P&L. Everybody gets like, we know how to do this stuff.
Right.
We're just now applying it. We're putting the lens on us. We're taking a good, hard, long look in the mirror, and we're going, I'm the business. I'm the business. And you know what? Would I invest in this business?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you backable? As a husband, as a wife. Okay. Would I make this deal again? By the way, are you appreciating in value or decreasing if you're a stock? Okay. Am I staying? Am I buying, selling, or holding? What am I doing in this situation with you?
Interesting way to look at it. I like that. So, Greg, you mentioned your website, and we'll link all this up in the show notes, but where can people find you, listen to the podcast, join your inner circle, subscribe to your weekly magazine, all the things?
Thank you. Midlifemale.com is where you can get the weekly emails, all of our back issues, everything on all 6 of the Fs. You'll subscribe to the newsletter. You'll get the free downloadable guides, all of that stuff. For speaking, coaching, that kind of stuff, gregscheinman.com is out there as well. Instagram is at Greg Scheinman. I'm not hard to find. And I try to get back to everybody that reaches out as quickly as I possibly can. And I just really appreciate being here. I love what you guys are doing. The art of living well is just, isn't that what it's all about, right?
Absolutely. And I know you've answered this, but we love to ask our guests, like, what does the art of living well mean to you?
I think it's being able to, I said it a little bit earlier, but I think it's about being able to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want. Like, I spent a lot of years chasing authenticity where it did not exist. And I can tell you that is exhausting.
Yes.
I think the art of living well is waking up with energy and going to bed tired, the good kind. You're doing these things that are filling your tank and they're not draining them. And I think it's pretty simple. But I think simple is really, really hard. And it's going to be hard either way. So you might as well put the work in to the right things, because you have a choice in all of this.
Yep.
Oh, so well said. So well said. Well, this was such a fun conversation. I mean, we hope that we get to see you on another mountain sometime soon, hiking another 29,000 vertical feet.
Or somewhere.
Or somewhere. Yeah.
It would be awesome. I can't wait to do it again. And I also think it's the perfect metaphor for what we've talked about. You have 29 feet to cover in 36 hours. How are you going to get it done?
Right.
Okay. How are you going to get it done?
That done? You can get anything done. That, in my opinion.
And going back to your notion, like having a plan, we were just meeting with someone right before this. We jumped on this interview and they asked, was it hard? Was the event hard? Yes, it was hard, but we had a plan. We trained every day for 5 months. We had that very detailed plan in place. And that's why we were able to do it. And so you can't get to where you want to be without some sort of a plan, like you said. And prioritizing what it is that's important.
You're going to climb up, you're going to gondola down, you're going to repeat it X amount of times. You have 36 hours. It could not be more simple. Again, exceptionally hard. Now, how are you going to do it? It's the same metaphor. 36 hours, okay? 15 ascents. If it takes me X amount, of time to do each ascent, then you add gondola time in. Then you say, I want to sleep 5 hours. It's math. And you write it down, and that's what we did also. Like, okay, this is what it looks like. So if I average X amount of minutes per ascent and takes you this, and I'm getting round and round in an hour and a half, then here's what I can eat. And if I want to sleep, here's what it is. And then I wake up on Sunday morning, and here's how much I have left to do. It is measurable and it is quantifiable.
Mhm.
And
And
because
it can
that,
be done. I mean, we
it
live in the
becomes achievable.
flattest state
Right.
ever.
Right.
No
And it-
mountains to train on.
It becomes achievable because you broke it down into manageable little pieces that made sense to you. Okay.
Yeah.
If I finish it in 35 hours and 59 minutes, this is what my pace looks like. If I want to finish it in 28 hours, my pace has to look like something different.
Mhm.
Now, if I'm not physically capable of doing it in 28 hours and running that pace and sustaining it without blowing my engine, then I have to adjust my pace. And you go back, this is the same thing to your life, same thing to your business plan. Can we grow 1,000% next quarter in our business or not? That's an ambitious goal, or that's going to cost us. Can I lose 25 pounds in 4 days? Not healthily. You can't. Okay, like again, what do these things look like? I know we go back over this stuff, but I find it super, super interesting when you're able to measure and quantify how it is that you want to accomplish your goals. And the way you
Mhm.
accomplish your goals is by setting standards. And when you adhere to the standards, the goals that you've set become inevitable.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much. This has been such a fun conversation and fun to hear the male perspective.
Yes.
Thank you both. We need the female perspective as well. Okay. And look, we need you guys. You got to be hard on us. You got to turn the screws, over there. We're not easy. We don't change well. We don't change all of it. So thank you guys for doing what you do. I really appreciate it, Stephanie and Marnie. You guys are great.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Greg. Have
Have
a
a-
great day.
You too.